a massive fast food chain knocks on the door, offering 3 times the normal rate, just to post one photo biting into their new burger for a luxury lifestyle AI persona. That's an enormous temptation. But the right answer is a firm no, because one off-brand photo can shatter an entire audience's trust in a single frame. Today, we decode the full AI influencer brand portfolio strategy from the 3-pillar ratio of retainers, projects, and affiliates, the 80% capacity rule to the 40% industry rule, and enterprise-grade CRM systems. This is how you turn unpredictable creator income into a compounding revenue machine.
Imagine an AI influencer, generating $1 million a year in top-line revenue.
Which sounds absolutely incredible on paper.
Right, it does. But the human creator running the whole operation is essentially on the verge of bankruptcy. I mean, it sounds completely counterintuitive, almost impossible.
It really does, but in the highly volatile world of one-off sponsorships and digital brand deals, this exact scenario plays out constantly.
Yeah, because you see this incredible revenue, but the underlying business structure is just so fragile. Like one delayed invoice or one canceled campaign brings the whole house of cards crashing down.
Exactly. The problem is that the creator economy, well, it often glorifies the hustle of landing the next big deal, completely ignoring the structural integrity you actually need to survive the wait between those deals.
Oh, absolutely.
Because revenue means very little if your cash flow is erratic, right? And your entire business model is dependent on external approval every single month.
Okay, let's unpack this, because today for our deep dive, we are looking at the exact mathematical and operational framework that separates the creators who burn out from the ones who, build resilient empires.
It is such an important topic.
It really is. We're diving deep into a comprehensive manual from AI Creator World. It's titled AI Influencer Brand Portfolio Strategy. And whether you are building your own digital persona, working on the brand side of marketing, or you're just studying the mechanics of the AI creator economy, this is basically a masterclass.
Yeah, a masterclass in shifting from a chaotic hustle to a predictable compounding revenue machine.
What's fascinated me the most is how it completely reframes the day-to-day grind.
What's fascinating here is that the guide demands a fundamental teardown of how creators view their own output. It forces a transition away from what we can call the personal output model and into a managed revenue system.
Right, because in the traditional model, you're just monetizing your immediate bandwidth.
Precisely. You negotiate the highest possible fee for the person sitting across from you right now, you do the work, and then you start from zero again next week.
And in that personal output model, your income is strictly capped by your physical capacity. Or, in the case of an AI creator, the human team's capacity to generate imagery, write copy, manage approvals.
Yeah, if the team stops pedaling, the bicycle just falls over.
Which is exhausting.
It is. You're constantly treating the symptoms of a bad business model rather than fixing the foundation. But when you transition to a managed revenue system, you decouple your income from that frantic day-to-day survival mode.
So you aren't just living invoice to invoice.
Right. Your earning potential is no longer limited by how fast you can pedal. It's limited by the architecture of your portfolio. You start treating partnerships as interconnected assets that generate a baseline yield.
It makes me think of the difference between a freelance carpenter and someone who owns an actual furniture factory.
Oh, that's a great analogy.
Yeah, like the carpenter builds one custom chair at a time. They find a buyer, negotiate the price, build the chair, deliver it, and then they have to scramble to find the next buyer before their savings run out.
And if they get the flu for 2 weeks, their income goes to zero.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Zero. But this portfolio model the guide describes, it's like owning the factory. You have different assembly lines running in parallel.
And the most critical advantage of upgrading to that factory model is leverage. Let's look at the vulnerability of the carpenter. Single deal dependency is the single biggest threat to a creator's longevity.
It really is terrifying when you think about it.
Oh, it's huge. If one massive brand partnership makes up, say, 80% of your monthly income, that brand effectively owns you.
Because if they decide to pause their marketing budget for a quarter, your business is facing a catastrophic failure.
Exactly. Which means you lose all of your negotiating power.
Right. If you need that brand to pay your server costs or your rent, you can't push back on scope creep. You can't demand higher rates.
And you certainly can't say no. You are negotiating from a place of sheer desperation.
So By systematically spreading that risk across a diversified ecosystem of partnerships, you neutralize that threat.
You do. When no single brand represents a critical majority of your revenue, a paused campaign just becomes a minor operational adjustment rather than a total crisis.
You shift from dependency to total independence.
Yeah, allowing you to walk away from bad deals or really demanding clients without risking your actual livelihood.
So what does this all mean? Like, that structural shift makes sense, but how does the math actually work when we look under the hood?
Well, the guide isn't just speaking in abstract theories. It lays out a very specific architecture.
Like a golden ratio for the types of deals you should be targeting.
Exactly. The guide segments a healthy portfolio into 3 distinct income types, each engineered to perform a specific function. The foundation is your retainers.
Okay, so the recurring money.
Right. These are long-term recurring contracts that should make up 40 to 60% of your total revenue. And ideally, that's spread across 2 to 4 active brand relationships.
I want to pause on that 40 to 60% figure, because my immediate thought is, if retainers provide stability, why not aim for 90 or 100% retainers?
It sounds tempting, doesn't it?
Yeah, why not just lock in guaranteed money and eliminate the risk entirely?
Because stability comes with an opportunity cost. Retainers eat up your calendar and your operational capacity.
Ah, I see.
If your schedule is 90% locked up with long-term contracts, you have zero agility. You can't take advantage of sudden, lucrative, short-term campaigns.
Or test out emerging brands in new sectors.
Exactly. And perhaps most importantly, you lock yourself into your current market rate. You need open inventory to continuously test your pricing power in the open market.
That makes perfect sense. So 40 to 60% covers your baseline operating expenses and provides peace of mind, but without suffocating your growth potential.
Precisely. You need enough anchor weight to keep the ship steady, but not so much that you can't steer.
Which brings us to the second category, project deals. The guide recommends these make up 30 to 40% of revenue, spanning maybe 3 to 6 deals.
Right, these are the one-off campaigns, the seasonal pushes. Project deals are your flexible pipeline. They inject higher margin cash bursts into the business.
And strategically, they serve as your minor leagues, right?
That's a great way to put it. When you take on a project deal, you are auditioning the brand just as much as they are auditioning you. You get to see if their communication is clean, if their feedback is reasonable.
And if their product actually resonates with your audience.
Yes. Because if a project deal performs exceptionally well, that brand becomes a prime candidate to graduate into your retainer tier next quarter.
And then we have the final piece of the ratio affiliates, making up 10 to 20% of the portfolio across 4 to 8 relationships.
Which is so important for long-term growth.
Yeah, I look at this as the passive compounding engine. As the AI persona's content archive grows over time, those legacy posts with embedded affiliate links continue to generate revenue.
Completely independent of your active workload for the week. Having those 3 distinct engines running is vital. But having the deals on paper is only half the battle.
Right, because there's the reality of getting paid.
Exactly. We have to discuss the concept of receipt timing, because this is the invisible killer of fast-growing creator businesses.
This part of the guide really highlights the difference between top-line revenue and actual operational survival.
The creator can generate a massive amount of top-line revenue and still go out of business if the timing of their income doesn't align with the timing of their expenses.
Right.
Retainers are generally reliable. They pay on a predictable monthly cycle, much like a salary. But project deals often operate on corporate payment terms.
Which can be brutal. Net 30, net 60, sometimes even net 90.
Yes, meaning you could deliver a massive, high-production campaign on October 1st, invoice the brand for $50,000, and not see a single dime of that money until January.
Wow. And if you are relying on that specific $50,000 to pay your team in November, your business is technically insolvent.
Even though you are highly profitable on a spreadsheet, which is precisely why the ratio is non-negotiable.
Ah, so the monthly cadence of the retainers and the continuous drip of the affiliate income serve as the cash flow bridge.
Exactly. They keep the lights on and the team paid while you wait for those massive project deal invoices to finally clear the corporate accounting departments. The portfolio is designed to smooth out the jagged edges of cash flow.
Wait, I need to stop you there and push back on something.
Sure, what is it?
The financial mechanics of balancing retainers and net 60 project deals, that makes perfect sense. But from an operational standpoint, the guide is suggesting that a creator manage upwards of 10 to 15 active brand relationships simultaneously.
It is a high number, yes.
It sounds like an absolute disaster for content quality. How do you avoid producing completely generic, watered-down content if your attention is splintered across 15 different corporate mandates?
Well, it's a valid concern.
Right. The guide can't just hand-wave away the creative and mental toll that takes.
It doesn't hand-wave it away, actually. It redefines the nature of the problem. What you're describing isn't a failure of creativity.
Okay, then what is it?
When content quality drops as a creator scales, it is almost entirely a symptom of a system's bottleneck. You are relying on human memory and sheer willpower to manage complexity, which is a guaranteed recipe for burnout.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because it's about the cognitive load of constantly context switching between different brand voices.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the guide introduces a strict operational metric to prevent the 80% threshold.
If we think about this like a computer processor, your CPU usage shouldn't be running at 100% just to keep the basic operating system alive.
Exactly.
The guide argues that a creator's portfolio is redlining at maximum capacity when their recurring, predictable activities, production, reporting, client communication, consume 80% of their available weekly hours.
The crucial distinction here is how you treat that remaining 20%. That 20% is not your weekend. It is not free time to relax.
Right? It's buffer.
It is systemic cooling. It is a mandatory operational buffer built into the schedule to absorb the friction of reality, because a brand will inevitably ask for a last-minute revision.
Or render will fail.
Exactly.
Right.
A platform algorithm will change and force you to pivot a campaign strategy overnight.
And if your schedule is packed to 100% capacity with deliverables, that single revision request creates a domino effect. It ruins the deadlines for 5 other brands that week.
The buffer absorbs the shock, and the guide actually provides benchmarks for this capacity, which really grounds the theory in reality.
Yeah, it notes that a solo creator running the entire AI persona alone maxes out at 3 to 5 active partnerships.
But if you bring on just one virtual assistant or dedicated video editor, you can push that to 6 to 10.
And a fully stacked production team can handle 15 plus.
But adding headcount only amplifies the chaos if you don't install the correct systems first. If you hire an editor but you still have to verbally explain the aesthetic preferences of 15 different brands to them every week, you haven't saved any time.
So how does the guide suggest offloading that massive cognitive load? Because holding the nuances of 15 corporate aesthetics in one human brain just isn't sustainable.
It comes down to standardizing the intake and production process, primarily through comprehensive brand brief documents and batch production workflows.
So you aren't starting from scratch every time.
Right. Every time you onboard a brand, you don't just sign a contract. You build a living document that houses their hex codes, their tone of voice constraints, their mandatory legal disclaimers, and examples of past winning content.
Oh, that's smart. So when the creator or the editor sits down to work on a campaign for that brand, they aren't relying on memory or digging through months of old email threads.
The context is instantly loadable. You open the brief, internalize the constraints, and execute.
Combine that with batch production, where you shoot all the content for brand A, brand B, and brand C in one highly focused session rather than bouncing between them all week, and the cognitive drag of context switching plummets.
You're engineering an environment where creativity can actually happen because the operational friction has been removed.
But having the operational capacity to service 15 brands doesn't mean you should just say yes to the first 15 companies that offer you a check.
No, absolutely not.
Which brings us to the strategic side of diversification. Because if you build this incredibly efficient factory, but you start running conflicting materials through the assembly line, you destroy the very asset that makes you valuable, the AI persona's audience authority.
It's very similar to building a traditional investment portfolio. You wouldn't take your entire life savings and dump it into a single volatile cryptocurrency. You have to diversify across sectors.
But for an AI influencer, how do you diversify without inducing audience whiplash?
The guide implements a safety mechanism called the 40% industry rule. It dictates that no single industry should represent more than 40% of your baseline retainer income.
Let's look at their example of a luxury lifestyle AI persona. If this AI has curated an audience that loves high-end aesthetics, and 60% of their retainer income is suddenly coming from luxury fashion houses, they are highly exposed to macroeconomic trends.
Right. If there's a recession and the fashion industry slashes marketing budgets across the board, that creator's income is decimated.
The instinct might be to just grab whatever retainer is available to replace that income, maybe a fast food chain or a discount hardware brand.
But That completely shatters the aspirational narrative of the persona.
Right. To diversify safely, that luxury AI needs to pivot laterally. They maintain the premium aesthetic but shift into different sectors like high-end hospitality, luxury automotive, or premium skincare.
Exactly. The financial risk is distributed across different industries, but the audience experiences a seamless, cohesive narrative.
And to manage those different relationships without overextending yourself, the guide breaks down the portfolio into 3 specific tiers of service. Not every brand gets the VIP treatment, and they really shouldn't.
Resource allocation is a zero-sum game. Tier 1 brands are your anchors. These are the massive long-term partnerships that drive your business. You invest heavy relationship capital here.
So you're scheduling proactive strategy calls, you are bringing them unprompted campaign ideas, you are actively trying to integrate deeper into their marketing ecosystem.
Yes. Tier 2 is the growth category. These partnerships get a highly professional, standard level of investment. You deliver excellent work on time. You provide thorough analytics.
But you aren't bending over backwards to provide free consulting or daily touchpoints.
Right. And Tier 3 is strictly transactional. This is maximum efficiency. You agree on a deliverable, you execute it flawlessly against the brief, and you send the invoice. Minimal relationship overhead.
But how do you objectively evaluate a brand to see if they even belong in the portfolio, regardless of the tier? Because the pressure to take a high-paying, conflicting deal is always going to be there.
This raises an important question regarding partnership compatibility. You test for positioning alignment by asking a very specific question. Would a deeply invested member of this AI personas community view this partnership as a natural, valuable extension of the content they already love? Or would it feel like a jarring, exploitative interruption?
We're talking about cognitive dissonance. If a fitness-focused AI that constantly prizes clean eating suddenly does a massive integration with a sugary energy drink brand, the audience instantly feels the disconnect.
The illusion is broken. The short-term cash injection from that energy drink brand will never outweigh the long-term compounding damage it does to your authority.
Because audience trust is the underlying currency of the entire business.
If the audience detects that you are selling out, they stop engaging. And when engagement drops, your Tier 1 anchor brands aren't getting the return on investment they paid for.
They will see the analytics flatline, and they will not renew your contract. A bad Tier 3 deal can literally poison your Tier 1 relationships.
To prevent that kind of structural decay and to keep this 80% capacity, beautifully diversified machine running, the guide emphasizes the need for an enterprise-grade operating system.
Yeah, you can't run a complex digital business on sticky notes and good intentions. You need foresight.
It begins with adopting a proper CRM, a customer relationship management tool that is specifically configured for brand partnerships. You aren't just logging emails.
You are tracking the life cycle of every deliverable, the payment status of every invoice, and most importantly, you're deploying automation to protect your future revenue.
The 60-day renewal alert is a perfect example of this. Instead of realizing a major retainer is expiring next week and frantically emailing the brand to beg for an extension, the CRM flags the contract 60 days out.
That 60-day window gives you a massive psychological and strategic advantage. It gives you the time to aggregate the last 4 months of performance data, build a compelling case study of the ROI you've delivered, and approach the brand proactively before they have even finalized their budget for the next quarter.
You are initiating the negotiation from a position of undeniable value.
Alongside that, the guide stresses standardized contracts. Instead of waiting for a brand's legal team to draft an agreement which can take weeks and usually includes terms highly unfavorable to you, you have your own templates ready to go.
You have standard rate cards, standardized exclusivity clauses that tightly define who your competitors are, and clear deliverable timelines.
When a brand asks for a proposal and you return a clean, commercially sophisticated contract within an hour, you stop looking like a hobbyist and start operating like an enterprise vendor.
This level of organization unlocks the ability to actually forecast your business. The guide recommends modeling 3 specific scenarios for the rolling 12 months ahead.
Okay, what are they?
You map out a conservative scenario, which acts as your stress test. If deal flow slows down and only half your retainers renew, what is your income floor? Can you still pay the team?
Then you map your base scenario, the expected trajectory, if current conversion rates hold steady.
Right.
And finally, your optimistic scenario, which outlines your expansion targets. If you close 2 more Tier 1 retainers, how does that impact your capacity?
Do you need to hire another editor before those deals close to maintain the 80% threshold? It turns abstract anxiety into actionable financial planning.
And as you run this system and accumulate data in your CRM, you can start hunting for what the guide calls profitable partnership clusters.
This is where you move from defense to offense. You analyze your past campaigns and look for anomalies in the data.
Like maybe you realize that the 3 enterprise software brands in your portfolio took half the time to produce content for, but yielded a 30% higher revenue per hour than your lifestyle brands.
Exactly. Once you identify that high-yield cluster, you don't just wait for more software brands to email you. You proactively build marketing collateral around the success of those 3 campaigns and launch outbound pitches to their competitors.
You let the data dictate your expansion into the most profitable niches. The evolution from a reactive creator to a proactive portfolio architect is profound.
It really is.
But as we look at the concluding sections of the guide, the future trends they predict suggest this evolution is going to accelerate dramatically.
We are rapidly approaching the deployment of AI-driven portfolio optimization platforms. Imagine a dashboard that doesn't just display your historical data, but uses predictive modeling to actively suggest resource allocation.
Wow, so it might warn you that a specific sector is cooling down globally and suggest you pivot your outbound pitching to a rising industry before your current retainers expire.
We're also seeing the rise of hybrid ecosystems. The deals are moving far beyond a simple transaction of pay me money and I will post a picture.
Top-tier AI creators are negotiating complex structures that involve media deliverables, licensing their digital likeness for the brand's own internal use, and integrating direct commerce, where the AI persona essentially becomes a localized storefront for the brand.
The mechanics of these partnerships are becoming infinitely more lucrative, but also exponentially more complex.
Which reinforces everything we've discussed today. You cannot participate in a multi-layered hybrid ecosystem if your underlying operational architecture is still struggling to remember to send an invoice on time.
The systems have to be flawless before the scale can happen.
To synthesize this entire journey for you listening, surviving and thriving in the AI creator economy requires a radical shift in perspective. You have to stop chasing the dopamine hit of the single deal.
You have to step back and architect a resilient, compounding ecosystem.
It is a business built on mathematical ratios, rigorous capacity management, and uncompromising brand alignment.
And the guide offers one final, striking observation about the health of this ecosystem. It notes that declining audience retention, meaning the percentage of a video watched or the depth of engagement with gist, is the ultimate leading indicator of income risk.
Because the audience data drops long before the brand revenue does. Brands are evaluating your authority.
If your audience begins to tune out because you've diluted your positioning with bad deals, the brands will see the metrics decay and the contracts will quietly dry up a few months later.
The data provides the warning sign months before your bank account feels the impact.
It does.
Which leaves me with a final thought to mull over, especially as the technology advances. If these analytics platforms are becoming so incredibly adept at tracking performance data, predicting audience fatigue, and optimizing these complex portfolios, how long is it before the AI influencers completely automate the business side of the equation as well?
That is a wild thought.
Could we see a near future where the AI isn't just the creative face of the brand, but operates as its own autonomous talent agency? Imagine an AI that constantly analyzes its own market value, independently negotiates a perfectly diversified portfolio with enterprise vendors, sends out standardized legal contracts, and perfectly balances its own cash flow ratios, all while the human creator sleeps.
It's a staggering implication. The factory wouldn't just be running efficiently, the factory would be running itself.
Something to seriously consider as this landscape evolves. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. As you move forward this week, try looking at your own projects, whether you are producing digital content, managing a team, or building a startup through the lens of portfolio architecture. Stop waiting on that one external yes and start building the factory.
We just walked through the complete architecture of long-term brand partnerships. From the one-sentence rule to the coherence test and the future of AI predicting ROI. If you want the full written breakdown, the AI Creator World article is linked in the description. And if this episode changed how you look at every brand deal you're negotiating, subscribe so you don't miss what's next. See you next time.